Let's go on to our next bullet, which is metrics. Now, of course, today's episode is about fundraising, and metrics seem to play a big part in this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a question that we get from founders a lot. And, what are the two of you seeing? What kind of growth and metrics are investors looking for, let's say, a seed or a Series A?
Yeah. So a few different primary metrics that I think most investors will look at. And so the number one is typically revenue. And so the question is, how fast does that revenue need to be growing? So the number that we typically see is, 10, 15, 20%. The higher you can get to 20% and the closer you can get to 20% and above is typically the metric that
month over month growth.
Yes,
I
thank
made
you.
10,000 this month.
Correct.
In January. In February, I made 12.
Correct.
And then in March, I made 20% of 12, which is
2,400.
2,400 on top, 14. Yep. I'm at 15, whatever. Yep. So that's not easy to do.
Correct.
That nets out to what, 3 or 4% week over week. And why are investors obsessed with this percentage growth at an early stage company?
Sure. So I think it goes back to the point we were talking about earlier, which is, is this a venture scale business? And so if you're going to get to 100 million in revenue in 7 years, the growth needs to be almost unnaturally fast. And so this is the early signal of that is this fast growth at the early stage. I think where you need to be careful, though, is if you are growing too fast, and I think investors will also look at additional metrics. So I think one of the things that you typically will talk about with founders is what is that other metric that we can track alongside revenue? So whether that's, engagement or, something along those lines. So what do you think, alongside revenue, what do you typically recommend a founder to track?
So depending on if they are an enterprise software company, a marketplace, or a consumer product, these are three very different categories. So in a marketplace, you might look at both sides of the marketplace and how many participants there are, which would drive what people call liquidity in a marketplace. So in a marketplace like Uber or Airbnb, you have drivers and riders and hosts and guests. Well, if you were Airbnb in the early days and you said, look, we're adding week over week, we're growing 5% on our base of hosts every week and 20% month over month. They'd be like, yeah, we had 100 hosts in January. We added 20 hosts, almost one a day or one every business day in February. It'd be pretty impressive, right? You found somebody with an extra bedroom or an extra apartment who wants to rent it. You onboarded them. I mean, that's hard to do. So that's the supply side. And obviously the demand side, how did you get new customers? Did you do all the growth tricks for that? So just watching and then with consumer apps, daily active users, weekly active users, monthly active users, and then cohort analysis, which you can look all that up online, but there's a whole framework there. And then there's a framework that's been established. And none of this, by the way, 10 years ago, sitting here in Silicon Valley, nobody had these frameworks. So it's becoming a science, startups. Give a lot of credit to someone like Eric Ries, who made it into a bit of a science. And then also people at Slack and Yammer really figured out how to make SaaS. Also Jason Lemkin from SaaStr. They really made SaaS into a bit of a science. So it used to be alchemy or a little bit of magic, right? Product magic. Steve Jobs would just say, here's the new product. Now it's more science. So the science in marketplaces is about building up the volume on both sides so that you have liquidity. For consumers, daily active users, retention, cohort analysis of the people who signed up in January, how many used it in March, of the February users, how many used it in March, et cetera. And then when you go over to SaaS, there's this thing, churn. Yep. Churn means I quit, I left. And so that's the negative thing to look at. If you're churning 20% of your users, that means every 5 months you have to replace your entire user base or more, right? So it's faster because it's 20% in month 3 of a much smaller number. So it's compounding in the wrong way. Yep. So churn is one issue. And then on the other side, on the positive side, landing and expanding, which is the reverse of churn. There's a buzzword for that. What's the buzzword for that?
Negative churn?
Negative churn, I guess, is, yeah. I knew it would come to me. Negative churn.
Yeah.
Explain what negative churn is.
Yeah, so it's actually that your customers, instead of decreasing month over month, an existing customer base will actually spend more with you every month. which is
How
just
is that
incredible.
possible?
So
I mean, I know the answer.
the
I'm
most
setting
common
you up now.
example, the most common example is you've got a sales product that you sell on a per seat, so each individual and
Salesforce, outreach.
yep, something like
whatever.
that. Yep, mix max, something like that. And so you have a team that uses it, perhaps a team of 10 start using it, and then the next month you add another team of 5 that's using it. So now the product
At
has
the same customer.
that's right, at the same
So
customer.
the expansion,
Mhm.
the land and expand, the expansion
Mhm.
in the customers that love it is greater than the people quitting.
That's right.
It's pretty easy. So
Amazing.
I think those are the things on metrics I look for.
Mhm.
I think it's important here also to look at vanity metrics and why they're not important. What are some of the things we see, Ashley, from founders that they put in their decks because I think they're looking to fill space, but that actually investors don't care about?
I mean, I would say, although it sort of can be helpful, but like social media followers,
Yeah.
especially when it's not really significant. I mean, it's just, we're growing our social media, and if those social media followers aren't translating to engaged users,
Yeah.
that doesn't matter.
Yeah. Vanity metric.
Vanity. Yeah, it's vanity. It doesn't.
Visitors to our website.
Yeah.
These things could matter if your business was, we use Instagram as our sales channel, and every 1,000 followers we get, we sell $100 more in subscriptions for calm.com. You could maybe tie that together, but
Sure.
just the growth of it generally, we do see that in decks where they're like, our traction's amazing. We've increased the number of readers to our blog. And it's like, well, are you a blog company? No, we're a cannabis company. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think getting press is another one that we see really commonly. Got a
Ah.
Forbes write-up, got a 30 under 30, those sorts
40
of,
under 40,
yeah,
50 over 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those sorts of patting yourself on the back for those things is
I would also say in the deck when they include the logo of previous companies, so their
Yeah.
team, their founding team, you have an Apple logo on there. Well, I know of a particular company where they put that on there for their founding team, and he worked at an Apple store, but he was an Apple employee, so he has got the Apple logo, which I mean is a little bit of stretching the truth, but I mean it can turn into sort of this vanity thing where people think they need to hire people that have this background just so their deck looks nice for investors.
It is in some cases credibility building if you were the person at Apple who managed the App Store, and now you're going to another company that is putting apps in the App Store or has a collection of apps. It's like, oh, wow, you know how the App Store works? Or you worked on Apple's podcasting effort, and now you went to work for Gimlet Media. It's like, oh, Gimlet Media got a podcasting person to work on their team. I think they did have somebody from Apple. If I remember, I met somebody at an event. That could be meaningful. But this is a very important moment, I think, in this episode, which is you just caught somebody in not fraud, but bending of the truth. This is super dangerous.
Yes.
And
It's
unnecessary.
a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope. And when you start bending reality like this, I'm not saying you're going to wind up like Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos, which is the sort of like fraud example, but that could just eliminate you from an investor ever investing. Because they will ask you if you put the Apple logo, what did you do at Apple? Or if you said you're a TED speaker and you were at TEDx Albuquerque, no offense to Albuquerque, I know I got a big following there, but I had people who put they were a TED speaker. And I was like, oh, I was at TED last year. And it's like, oh, no, I was at TEDx Albuquerque. It's like, wah, wah. You're sort of, the expectation was so high and it went down. Let's address, I don't want to raise money. I don't want to turn on revenue yet. And we're focused on technology. We've had 2 companies go through the syndicate recently that overperformed or performed really well that were just pure technology plays.
Yes.
Didn't have revenue traction. What do you think matters there? Because if there isn't revenue traction and you're on a 2-year technology build, because it's hard tech, AI, or something like that, a developer tool, whatever, how do you clear market in that situation?
Yeah, and that will actually lead me to a question that I have for you after this. But so founder is hugely important. When you don't have revenue, you have to believe in the founder.
Or founders.
Founders, yes, a founding team.
Yeah.
That they are experts in the space.
Mm.
That typically they're not first-time founders. That doesn't certainly exclude someone who is, but that helps. Their background helps. Having investors on their cap table, big name investors, whether that's a VCs or seed or angels.
Yeah, that can help validate a
It
person.
can certainly help validate a person. But yeah, largely it's the team.
Yeah.
And how well they can describe their company to people who are non-technical. I mean, I really think that it's how you can, if you can bring it down to a 5th grade reading level, which is, the average reading level of Americans, it can be very, very helpful. Not every engineer can do that.
Got it. So when you're explaining the business, the high art is being able to explain a complicated tech business to investors who maybe don't have depth in that space.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it. You had a question for me?
Yeah. Well, about in that same, pre-revenue, when you're looking at a consumer product, where's the tipping point of we don't have any revenue yet, but this is the number of engaged users we have. And not only for angels, because at that point you're still really investing in the founder, but for a VC.
Yeah. I've heard 10 million monthly users is the new bogey. That's like the new baseline. 10 million monthly active users, MAUs, is what people think a Series A starting line is. Which if you had different users every day, which you wouldn't want, but let's just say you divide that by 10 to get to that's 1 million daily active users or 500,000. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Now, I think seed would occur at 10 to 20% of that number. So I think 1 million users a month, which might be 100,000 a day, would clear the seed market. Damon, what are your thoughts if we put numbers to it in 2019? Because you might be watching this in 2029.
Yeah, I would agree with the number. I think growth rate is also very important in this.
Velocity, yeah.
Yeah, so, where were you 30 days ago? Where were you 60 days ago? Where were you 90 days ago? And I think in consumer, what you really want to see is actually an acceleration of growth. So not and a starting to taper as you get to these higher numbers can be concerning as well.
You already know that Zendesk is the world's greatest customer support platform, but what you may not know is that they have a range of products now. They've evolved as a company. They've been adding a ton of features, studying their customers. That's us, you and me. And they've added a bunch of products under the umbrella Zendesk Suite, which is a simple yet powerful solution to make it easy for you to manage your customer relationships. And it includes an integrated customer support system, a knowledge base, so all the information's in one place, live chat, because all these young kids, they want to chat. Even me, I'm 48, I want to chat. I don't want to talk to somebody on the phone. I don't want to do email. I want to chat. It's easier, easy breezy, and call center. So with all of these support channels connected, you're going to have the conversations you do with your customers be seamless. You're not going to lose any important discussions and make your company kind of lose credibility with your important customers in their moment of need, right? And your agents will be wildly more productive. And all of that information will be shared across your company. So product development people or the CEO and the C-suite, they're all going to understand what's going on the front lines. Finally, you will be able to scale your business without needing to hire a bunch of people. And that's really what this is about. It's about making your customer support team bionic, making them superheroes. And they need to have the Zendesk Suite in order to do that. And here's the thing. It's flat rate pricing, and you're not going to believe the offer. I can't believe the offer. Zendesk, this is your call to action. You're not going to believe it. It's literally, I think, the best offer I've ever read on air. Zendesk.com/twist. And you will get a free full year if you're a startup. They're defining startup as Series B or earlier and under 100 employees. Okay, terms and conditions apply, obviously. But you're going to get the full product for free for a full year. This is an incredible deal. I don't know how long they're going to do it for, but Zendesk wants to capture that early part of the market here. They want to get you when you have 2 to 100 employees. And they're going to do that by giving you the software free, which is amazing. You get the software for free for a year. Zendesk.com/twist. Zendesk.com/twist. Great job, Zendesk, on the offer. I really appreciate it. Okay, let's get back to this amazing episode.